Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SBReacts, where today we got ourselves a track titled The Tale of Diesel Fuel JOESTAR. And if we switch over to here, based on the thumbnail, the art here, I have no idea what I have gotten myself in for. And we have lots of interesting characters. Got Mr. Beast over here, we've got KSI over here, we've got me, and I'm wearing Dio's hat, if I'm not mistaken. We've also got a little version of the thumbnail down there, which is quite nice. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Alright, let's do it. What have we got? My leg!
Woke up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy, and I went to the park and saw people hitting the gritty. And when I kidnapped the children and put them into my van, I promised to never let their kids see their parents again. I went
There's
to a
rhythm
gas
to it this
station
time, I like
to
it.
get some gas, and then this homeless guy kept begging me for mass. So I took out my gun out of my ass, and I shot him in the million times in the glass. What the
So I'm gonna just put a point of constructive critique here. I feel like there could be one too many lead layers. The dog barking is one thing, but then you've got the girl in the background screaming, and I'm just not really sure what to pay attention to, although that might be the idea.
Oh no! Steve did pee-pee!
Nice use of Foley with the clatter, though.
Boy, good boy, good boy, good boy.
Hey, what fuel did you use? Diesel fuel?
Diesel fuel! Oh no!
Yeah, I ate 10 people at the gas stations because I thought they
Nice.
were watermelons. But then I needed some gas, so I thought my diesel fuel. He started screaming and choking me to my fuel. Oh yeah. What do you mean that you're not supposed to put in the green? No.
You're like Jenny.
You can't do this to me. Dad, stop beating me.
See, it's tricky because there's more.
Hello, Mr. Logan Spiderhands. I just like to take this section of the song to apologize for the music that I just put in your ears and the music that's about to be put in your ears as well after my part.
See, the wonderful thing about an apology is that you can just not do it. We're showing self-awareness, but we're committing to the bit.
My apology. I'd like to say I'm sorry, and it's probably gonna get worse from here. I'm sorry.
I mean, I like this. Can you just have 3 minutes of that? There's a nice little melody going on there with the synth leads.
I promise I was a good boy for mommy. I promise I was a good boy.
See, we were so close to having something workable, and then the train went off the other rails. See, I don't even mind this necessarily. Like, I've listened to experimental music before, And I've listened to stuff that's crazier than this before. And that's not me going, wow, look, this is kind of vanilla or anything like that. It's just that there are parts of this track that make musical sense to me. It's almost like an experiment to see how much someone can tolerate. But there's actually some cool ideas, like a little fluttering there.
Hello, Mr. Logan Spiderhands. I just like to take this section of the song to
I mean, that's a cool chopping of the Five Nights at Freddy's sample there. Might not be for everyone, but...
Protein tubes with that white sauce. 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 Protein tubes with that white sauce.
I look and I see these chuds all around the neighborhood, and I get surprised. I remember when this place was good. Then I get upset and I go Super Saiyan, and I'm gonna... Wait, what was I saying?
Say wallahi, bro. Say wallahi. Say wallahi, bro. Say wallahi. Say wallahi, bro. Say wallahi. Say wallahi, bro. Say wallahi.
Protein tubes with that white sauce. Protein tubes with that white sauce. Protein tubes with that white sauce. Protein tubes with that white sauce.
And that was the tale of Diesel Fuel Joestar. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track titled The Tale of DEISEL Fuel Joestar. In this section, we're going to be providing an overall song analysis of everything from lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as to any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think this track was an attempt to try and put together a wide variety of textures and timbres and sounds and bits of follies and samples and kind of bit crushing and chopping them and doing all sorts of actually genuinely interesting things musically. It's definitely not going to be music for everyone. There are some parts where it's intensely dramatic and sort of like over the top, but I feel like for people who are either in it for the meme or who are into this kind of avant-garde experimental stuff, there might be some stuff we can appreciate. I know I was directly addressed within this. It's okay. I forgive you. I forgive you for this. I actually was kind of unironically nodding my head and vibing to some of the chord note grooves that you had, some of the kick sections and everything like that. I kind of dig some of the synth melodic textures we have. Some of the screaming vocal sounds were a little bit intense. I'm not sure if I enjoyed listening to the dog barking. I'm not not necessarily sure about what that had to do with the JOESTAR universe. I don't necessarily understand the diesel fuel JOESTAR reference. I'm just not familiar enough with the lore. I don't mind being Dio in this situation, just not sure why. but ultimately, I think in the rap sections, when we tried to sort of like spit on the mic, it was kind of cool to establish a sense of flow with the percussion in the background. And even though there weren't a lot of moments where we were doing more sort of direct vocalizations, and I'm not sure if we necessarily had a cohesive theme spread across the track, especially at least in regards to the title is of the song, I still think it was more music with this one than noise. I think that the arse to glass part in the first verse was especially inspired. It's just nice that we have a bit of a sense of humor about it, that we're not taking ourselves too seriously. It's good, you know. They'll continue to work on things and improve as they evolve as musicians. But yeah, it's just difficult to really summarize all different vocal parts. We had some kind of ASMR stuff, which if I think about, is that like mommy ASMR or something like that? Because I did a previous review of It's Your Boy, a review of their EP that they sent through prior, and I think there was some of that kind of ASMR, and people were commenting that that's what it was as well. So if that's the case, there was a bit more of it in there, and that's fine. Structurally, the track at 6:45 is long. It's a wee way out of the 2 to 4 minute sweet spot, where once it's past 4 minutes, if you overplay things, it just starts to get a bit overdone, you know. We had so much variety within the different instrumental, textural, tonal layers there that really we never stayed on anything for too long. It's actually kind of cool in a way because we didn't overstay our welcome with anything. The train sounds that we had sometimes are a bit sharp. We had some sort of like loud crashes, the dog just barking by itself. We didn't hang on things too long. But it's like we were editing a YouTube video, but with music. And I think that makes sense nowadays with like people with lower attention spans, is to try and have a lot of different elements within the music that you listen to, even if it isn't necessarily musically solvent. Outside of the dog barking sounds and the ASMR and all the other parts there, we had some nice sort of pads and synth layers and leads there, some nice sort of drum parts there where we kind of worked with some kicks, some sort of hi-hats and snares there, and put forward some quarters, 8s and 16s. We also had some sort of like forward to the floor grooves there, which had a nice sort of pulse to them in the sort of electronic sections a bit later on. Even though the textures were a bit unconventional, there were notes to them. Even the farts were kind of musical at some part. So I think actually we managed to combine our sort of direct need for chaos musically and, you know, and texturally and in terms of the ingredients within the mix, with trying to make something that was just a little bit more practical from like a songwriting perspective. Even the down, 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 down at the start there, those kind of clatters, they had a rhythm to them. The 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, like you can kind of nod your head along to that a little bit. It's not too abrasive or random. I mean, there was that part around the 2:10 mark where we had some really discordant notes occurring with those synth layers and accordions and stuff like that. And it was genuinely kind of uncomfortable listening to that. But at the same time, I think there was like a deliberate effect on that part. That was the mood I wanted to put forward. I know that kind of makes it sound like I'm kind of coping a little bit. It's more that music doesn't need to sound nice in order to be effective at the medium it's trying to communicate, especially with a lack of maybe direct direction there with the screams and stuff like that. It makes total sense. And we had the apology after that as well with the cute little sort of synthesizer behind it. It sounded very gentle in comparison to that. I do maintain they do understand their fundamentals. That part with the kind of squeaking sound about the 3:10 mark now, where there was a little kind of perky, stabby element there with the synths and the kicks and stuff like that, was really pretty sounding, and I liked the kind of major lean to that. I was wondering where it was about to start being a kind of like horrible sounding, because I got in the apology saying it was about to get worse, but I genuinely didn't mind it. In fact, honestly, I feel like the first half was maybe a bit more brutal than the second. Even within that sort of darker section around the 3:40 mark where there were those low and kind of noisy shuffles, I mean, again, I don't necessarily mind that. I think that if it's leading somewhere a bit more ominous, that's totally fine. Even in that part around the 5:10 mark, we had the kind of Freddy Fazbear-ish kind of jump scare stuff, how it kind of chopped itself up and rose and went up and down like that. There was like a melody to that. It was distorted. It kind of sounded glitchy and experimental, and I dig that. I think it's cool. Even that kind of squelchy wow kind of synth around the 6-minute mark or the 5-minute 50 mark had a bit of comedic effect to it with the guy losing track of what he was saying. And we go back to that. That's what's kind of neat as well, is that we go back to the squelchy synths and the Freddy Head Fazbear stuff, and we bring them together along with those kicks and those on beats and syncopated elements there. So honestly, I didn't mind the later half that much at all. You know, we talked about kids and vans and like guns coming out and shooting people and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff, like people saying they've been a good boy and everything like that. So I don't know if there's a cohesive narrative to this piece. But then in the same way, I just don't think they really needed to have a cohesive narrative. This is just them making art, and I did enjoy the fact that there were some beats to bop along to. So I don't really know how to review this in a traditional sense, because it feels more like a tapestry of different stitched together elements as opposed to, again, a cohesive narrative or like a singular experience. And I don't even know where to begin with a theme of it. I just think it's meant to be chromatic. It's like an aberration. It's people having fun with music. And I think that when you review or when you react to music, you know, the mistake people make is taking themselves too seriously and misunderstanding the concept of what they're trying to accomplish, which is simply to experience something and give their thoughts on it. I think ultimately, whether it's major, minor, chromatic, you know, extension, singular notes, written up or down, or simply noisy kind of like harsher textures, they made the song they wanted to, and it was never a dull moment. It was loud, you know, studio recording, mixing, and mastering wise. I think that the leveling in general was fine. There were some parts that were deliberately pushed there to be a bit more kind of like difficult to listen to. But then in that, again, I've listened to music that's had that before, and it's fine. Music doesn't need to sound soft and nice and pretty and beautiful to be good. You know, if they wanted a kind of crazy, chaotic, kind of quirky sounding tune, this is part of the way to getting that. Music surrounds you in the headphones. There's deliberate automation like the ASMR shit at the start, you know, some parts just being on one side of the headphones kind of squealing away, you know, like it was full sounding when it needed to be. There was nice side chaining certain components. There was interesting chopping of certain samples to make them into synthetic elements or melodic or harmonic instruments. And genuinely, yeah, within some of the harmonies and melodies, there were some really great ideas, even if they're a bit unconventional. Nice and loud, a bit of pumping. Bass compression limiting is handled. In terms of like applicable constructive critique, we could have potentially have. No, I think the kind of lo-fi kind of style on the microphones kind of suits the aesthetic that we're going for here. It's totally fine. I was going to say you could have potentially have had like a cleaner mic tone or something like that by EQing or sort of removing noise or something like that, but it's totally fine. It's totally fine. It has this kind of like garage kind of aesthetic to it. Final thoughts from a general listener's perspective. If this has any connection to previous tracks I reviewed from like It's Your Boy and stuff like that, I'm glad that we've improved with our ability to make music. I wish them all the best of luck in future with their musical and non-musical endeavors, and thank you for watching my review of this track titled The Tale of Diesel Fuel JOESTAR. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.